All right, today we're putting on our detective hats. But this isn't just any case. This is a cosmic detective story. We're going to try and solve one of the biggest mysteries ever, and we're going to do it with just a single powerful clue. So let's see exactly where the evidence leads us.
And this is the central mystery. Seriously, just take a second to think about it. Why is there all of this? The universe, our planet, you, me? Why is there something instead of just an absolute empty nothing? It's a question that has kept people up at night for thousands of years. And our first clue is a principle that, we actually use every single day.
Every good investigation needs a solid clue to start with, right? A piece of evidence you can really trust. For us, our one and only clue is an idea so fundamental we barely even notice we're using it. It's called the principle of causality.
So what is causality? Well, it's this super simple but incredibly powerful idea that things don't just happen out of the blue. Every effect has to have a cause. A glass shatters because something hit it. The rain falls because of processes in the atmosphere. Nothing just happens. It's the engine of science, the foundation of logic. And this principle is going to be the magnifying glass we use for this entire investigation.
Okay, so just like any good detective, the first thing we need to do is rule out what's impossible. We've got a couple of initial suspects for how all of this existence got started. Let's put them under the magnifying glass of causality and see if their stories actually hold up.
Suspect number one, the idea that something could come from absolutely nothing. Think about it. If that were possible, why wouldn't laptops or giraffes just pop into existence in your room? It would be total chaos. Logic would go out the window. So that one's out. Then there's suspect number two, something causing itself. Well, for something to cause itself, it would have to exist before it existed in order to create itself. Yeah, that's a classic paradox, a total logical contradiction. So that one's off the table too.
So, we've crossed two big possibilities off our list. But that brings us to a really mind-bending one. What if there was no single beginning? What if the chain of cause and effect just keeps going back and back and back forever? This is an idea called infinite regress.
To really get our heads around this, let's picture something simple. A long line of dominoes falling. Each one knocks over the next. Easy enough, right? But now imagine that line of dominoes doesn't have a beginning. It just stretches back into infinity. Could they ever fall? The logic here is actually pretty straightforward when you break it down. For the last domino to fall, the one right before it had to hit it. And for that one to fall, the one before it had to fall, and so on down the line. But here's the absolute kicker. If the chain is infinite, there is no first domino. There is nothing to give that initial push to start the whole thing. And without a first push, the chain reaction can never, ever begin. And this is where it all clicks. Just look around. The universe exists. We're here. The last domino has fallen, so to speak. The very fact that anything is happening right now is proof that the chain reaction did start somewhere. This line of reasoning tells us that an infinite chain of causes just can't be the right explanation for the reality we see today. Okay, so let's recap our detective work. We've ruled out something from nothing. We've ruled out something causing itself. And now we've ruled out an endless, infinite chain of causes. By pure elimination, we're left with only one possibility on the table. There must have been a first cause. So now let's do what detectives do. Let's build a profile. Based on pure logic, what must this first cause be like? And this profile is built just from our deductions. First, it has to be uncaused. I mean, that makes sense, right? If it had a cause, it wouldn't be the first one. Second, it must be necessary, meaning its existence doesn't depend on anything else. It just is. The argument goes on to say it must be immaterial, because physical stuff is always changing, always an effect of something else. It would also have to be timeless, existing outside of our concept of time, since time itself is part of the caused universe. And finally, it would have to be singular. Why? Well, if you had two ultimate causes, they would have to limit each other. And if something is limited, it can't really be the ultimate source of everything. We've followed the breadcrumbs of causality all the way from a really simple question to this incredibly detailed profile. So now it's time to put all the pieces together and present the final answer that this argument gives us. So here it is, the whole thing in a nutshell. We started with the observation that effects have causes. Then we eliminated the logical impossibilities. Things can't come from nothing or cause themselves. We then saw why that infinite domino chain is a dead end. And so, the only conclusion left standing, according to this line of reasoning, is that there must be a single, uncaused necessary first cause that kicked the whole thing off.
You could actually boil this entire journey down into one single powerful thought. If there is an effect, there is a cause. If there is a cause, a first cause is necessary. That's the core of it right there.
So there you have it, the causality argument. It's a journey of pure reason, starting with something we see every day and ending at a pretty profound conclusion. It's presented not as a belief, but as the final stop on one particular logical road, which of course leaves us with the real question. If this is the answer at the end of this path, what new questions does it open up for you? Thanks for coming along on this little investigation.